in August, Emmanuel College at the University of Cambridge hosts the Summer School in Japanese Early Modern Paleography. We welcome graduate students, scholars, museum curators, librarians, among others, who share an interest in reading Japanese early modern materials in their original format. Now, over the course of the years, we have developed effective pedagogical methods that allow non-native speakers of Japanese to successfully acquire the paleographic skills that are needed to decode early modern texts written in cursive and with a multitude of variants for each phonetic syllable. We also provide training in reading texts written in hybrid literary Chinese or Kanbun Kundoku and historical materials which use the so-called Sorogun style. Whilst the summer school attracts participants from all over the world, we also encourage our own students to join. Japanese Studies at the University of Cambridge is set up to give solid and rigorous training in classical Japanese to those undergraduate and postgraduate students who wish to work on pre-modern topics. Now, those students who decide to enroll in the summer school on top of their curricular coursework develop impressive levels of proficiency in mastering the language used in early modern documents and in working on originals without any mediated form of critical edition or transcription. These enables them to access primary sources that still await to be studied and to pursue highly original research projects. Today, a group of our students joins us to share their work.
Hello everyone, I am Joseph. I am currently on my year abroad at Rikyo University in Japan and about to go into my 4th year undergraduate at Cambridge University.
Hi everyone, I'm Tess and I've just finished a 4-year degree course in Japanese Studies at the University of Cambridge and Emmanuel College.
Hello, my name is Freddie Fielden. I'm about to enter the first year of my Japanese Studies PhD at Trinity College.
My name is Helen and I'm in the first year of my PhD at the University of Cambridge.
So my research at undergraduate level is focusing on one particular kibyoshi by Santo Kyoden from Kyowa 1803, called the Ningen Ichidai Godo Meisho Hitoriannai, a parody of Edo period Hitoriannai, Edo period travel guides. And it uses loads of fake place names and fake road names to create a map to enlightenment, but then also a map to making loads and loads of money. But as I started to research this, I started to realize that other texts also used similar names. And I looked more and more into it and discovered a sort of adapted story world that had been created by lots of different authors, right from the 1750s through to the 1860s. Lots of different authors working, parodying actually one original text, the Zennaku Ryodochu Hitoriannai, and using the places contained in that text to build their own extra worlds and create loads of different adaptations that cross various different genres, from kibyoshi to kokkeibon to ichimaizuri, all kinds of different things that really create a more interesting whole to study and create a kind of mini genre that I've really been looking into. So, for example, if I take one of my many sources that I'm looking at, the Shonin Ichidai Dochuzu, this is an image adaptation of the original 1756 book, the Zennaku Ryodochu Hitoriannai by a guy called Hiyute. That book was entirely text, there was no image to it, but this particular version of it has drawn out everything in that book as a map. You can then follow this map more visually as opposed to textually and work your way through the text that way. And what you will see is that a lot of the places visible on this map also can be found in Santo Kyoden's text that I'm studying for my undergraduate 50 years later. The place names then appear in so many other texts for the next 100 years. So what you then realize when you're looking at these different texts of different genres is that these place names and these concepts are not one book owned by one person, written by one author, They are a trans-genre world contributed to by many different authors to create an overall much more intriguing, much more open and massive world that can be researched, and that's what I'm looking into.
So I wrote my final year dissertation on a kibyoshi, a picture book for adults written by Santo Kyoden, on a text that revolves around the world of an Edo period public bath. The work I researched is called Kengo Irigomi Sento Shinwa. Unlike some scholars have argued, this is a text that has a multifaceted nature, where the public bath becomes a metaphorical world about external life as well. So one of the reasons why reading this kind of material offers a very pleasurable reading experience is because Santo Kyoden treats visuals in a very thought-provoking and intriguing manner. So if we look at the illustration on the screen now, we see a character, Sho, to sparkle. However, Kyoden justifies the placement of this character in the following way. He writes, the character, Sho, represents 3 small buckets piled on top of each other. This character itself means brightness or light. In the same way as people every day enter the bath to wash their bodies, they cleanse their souls and hearts, washing away the filth of wrongful desires and evil passions. Thus, one's pure heart is left shining, bright and clear. So we can see here how the humor is twofold. On one hand, Kyoden is playing with the very shape of the character, Sho. But on the other hand, the explanation of why a character with the meaning of bright and clear is there prompts reflection upon what the reading process of Kengu Irigomi entails.
Looking at the life cycle of Gorkan, a genre of early modern popular illustrated prose. My particular focus is Gorkan that have adapted other books in other genres, across the late Edo period into the Meiji period. I want to explore what happened in these literary transformations, what changed structurally and thematically in terms of text and image, and use that to give us a better idea of how books were written and how they were read in 19th century Japan. One of my case studies is taken from the 1850s, a Gorkan series called Yumi Harizuki Haru no Yubai, which was an adaptation, an extended rewriting of Kyokute Bakin's celebrated Yomihon Shinsetsu Yumi Harizuki from 40 years before, which depicted the swashbuckling adventures of Minamoto Tametomo, who ends up shipwrecked in the Ryukyus. This process of adaptation involved a kind of digestion on the part of the author and illustrator, because the earlier Yomihon were much longer with significantly more written text, and the later Gorkan have a different composition. Text fitted around illustrations on every page. So through my research, I hope to uncover what was kept, what was removed, and above all the reasons for these changes.
I'm working on a kind of text that was popular in Japan in the 17th and 18th centuries called myohitsu. The name means the woman's brush, although actually men also wrote it. And these are books that show readers a very elegant and difficult kind of calligraphy. Looking at one of them, we can probably see at least one reason why this calligraphy was wildly popular during its heyday. This one is by probably the most famous practitioner, a woman called Hasegawa Myote. You can see a very dramatic kind of script with bold, rounded lines, as well as very fine, delicate strokes, very connected. And here we can see the way the brush lightly dances upwards, joining the bottom of one line to the top of the next. This is not something that's practiced in calligraphy anymore. There's more going on than just brush handling though. The last sample letter in the book shows how the text drifts diagonally downwards. We've actually got 2 layers of text here. We read the large writing first, and when we get to the end of the letter, we go back to the beginning and read the smaller writing. So we can see that the page works in a completely different way to what we're used to. I'm researching the relationship between the calligraphic style, the writer, and the content. In other words, who would write in this style, when, and for what purposes?
Joining the paleography summer school run by Dr. Moretti really was actually the thing that let me do any of this. What you may have noticed through all of the sources that just appeared on your screen is that none of them are transcribed. They are all completely unresearched because no one has ever really had any interest in this kind of stuff. And as an undergrad, and even at a master's level, that is quite a big barrier to overcome. And it's a barrier that the paleography summer school really helped me to overcome. I've managed to transcribe about 4 or 5 different texts that have really managed to increase the scope of my research with regards to this story world that I'm looking at, but just is not possible if you rely on what other academics have decided to transcribe. Then I have sources that I own myself, that I have bought myself, that are quite possibly one of a kind. And therefore, I really only can rely on myself to transcribe them. No other academic is ever going to be able to look at them because I'm the only one that has them. So with that in mind, a course in paleography and reading Hentai and Kuzushiji was absolutely essential to all of my research.
The paleography summer school was extremely helpful in that it gave me the key to start understanding how the reading of Kosei script of the Kuzushiji works, and it came in really handy, especially when I was working on my final year dissertation project, because when I had to work on visuals, on the illustrations of the text, I had to go back to the original.
The summer school in paleography was where I first learnt to read pre-modern Japanese script. It was a fantastic introduction to all different kinds of scripts and hands, and really got me thinking about how we read writing. I think it's really important for people studying pre-modern Japan to be able to read their own primary sources, instead of being limited to texts that have been transcribed into typography. And my research is really showing me how inadequate typography is as a way of accessing pre-modern texts.
If you want to take a step further and work with original sources, then you have to take a deep dive into the world of early modern paleography. It's a vital skill set, whether you're a historian or scholar of literature. The Cambridge Summer School is the perfect way to start on that road or hone your skills with a group of enthusiastic, like-minded people from across the world. Even this summer, we've taken the opportunity to work remotely and collaborate using Hashimoto Sensei's groundbreaking online transcription software that employs state-of-the-art AI recognition to open up the world of early modern texts. I hope you apply to take part in the program next year.